All right, we are live. Seven people on? That quick? I don't know about that. Oh, wait. Oh, Julie. I'm Karen. Douse. We'll give it a few minutes for people to come in. Oh, Sindhu. Kala. Robert. This is not myself. Welcome. I like how everybody's saying where they're from. The retreat this past weekend, I actually did that. I think that's a really nice thing. It gives people it tells people a little bit about the other people in the community. So it's good. Hello, Gautam and Bella. Welcome. John, welcome. Oh, Robert. Christine is Washington. So if you Christine is usually on, so you're not the only West Coaster. All right. I think Douse wins the extreme time zone award as usual. All right, let's get started, shall we? Robert, yeah, the Discord community does. The Discord community has every continent except for Antarctica. And I always joke I'm still waiting for that random scientist stationed in Antarctica to log in one day, and then we can have all continents. Let's do our chanting. All right. This is commonly chanted at Bhavana and many other places. I believe even this is, or a version of this is in the Thai forest as well. It's a very beautiful chant. I always enjoy this one. Bahungve saranang yanti pabbatani vanani cha arammarukka chatyani manusa bayatajjita netanko saranang kemang netang saranang uttamang netang saranang agamma sabbadukka pamucchati Yo cha buddhan cha dhamman cha sanghang cha saranang gato chattari ariya satchani sammappanyaya passati Dukkam dukkha samuppadang dukkassa cha atikkamang aryanchitangikam maggam dukkupasamagamminang etang ko saranang kemang etang saranang uttamang etang saranang agamma sabba dukkha pamucchati. All right. The supreme refuge. They go to many a refuge, those who have been struck by fear. They go to the mountains and forests, to parks and trees and shrines. But none of these is a secure refuge. None is the refuge supreme. Not by relying on such a refuge can one be freed from all suffering. But one who has gone for refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha sees with perfect wisdom the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, the arising of suffering, the transcending of suffering, and the Noble Eightfold Path that leads to suffering's final end. This is the refuge that is secure. This is the refuge that is supreme. By relying on such a refuge as this, one is released from all suffering. Welcome, Tessa. Tessa has been around for a while. Okay. All right, friends, welcome to another Dhammapalooza, Monday night festival of Dhamma with the Maggaseka community, where we do a variety of Dhamma-related activities from chanting to meditation and possibly question and answers, Dhamma talks, readings, whatever might come up. At this point, we leave it up to the community to figure out and to see what we're going to talk about. So if you have any questions that you'd like me to try and answer, you can put that in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like me to talk about or for the community to discuss, put it in the chat. And if you have no topics or questions, then we can read a sutta. I have a good one backed up for us today, just in case. And so, as most of you know, you can feel free to talk to each other in the chat. This is a community event. If you're talking in the chat, you're not disturbing me, disrespecting me, or anything like that. It's good if you're talking Dhamma, getting to know each other. That's great. I loved how everybody, at least the people in the beginning, were saying where they were from. That's really cool. I think that's a good tradition that we should keep going, so people know and people get to know each other. All right. Hello, Anthony. Hope everything's going well, Anthony, and I hope to see you soon. We'll see. Let's see. This is not myself. Has a question. What's a proper translation for manna in context of the 10 fetters? So this can't be like manna from like the Bible or from like wizards. Maybe I think you mean munyati, maybe. Unless this is a word that I'm not familiar with. Oh, okay. So you're talking about One of the last fetters. All right. Okay. Yeah, conceit. That's like, if you go into I can read the dictionary right now. Pride, conceit, egotism, comparing oneself, or measure or quantity. Right? Quite interesting. So what this means, this is I think the second meaning of measure or quantity is probably more accurate in terms of the fetter, because this is one of the last fetters to go. This is the conceit I am, right? So you're measuring your you are still feeling, still believing in some kind of a self, some kind of a being, even if you've not been able to see anything else that's self, then and only an arahant has fully overcome that. All right, let me just check the. I'm just checking the chat here just to see if I'm missing something. Ah, our friend from Poland is here. Welcome, Rahulawad. Robert has a question. Can you speak on sense restraint? Yeah, it's practicing letting go. All right? It's practicing letting go of indulging in every single possible thing that's coming up within your senses. Restraining. You could think of it as like a force, like I'm forcing myself not to engage with these things. It's kind of okay, but really it's a letting go. It's I'm not going to go nuts engaging with all these things. That's just going to cause my mind to be agitated. It's just going to cause me to suffer, cause me my craving to arise. I think I'll just let go. I think I'll just restrain my senses. Instead of not only observing something, then papanchaing it, propagating it, keep thinking about it. An attractive person, some kind of delightful food. Instead of getting attached to it, you let go of it. Oh yeah, so what? It's a good-looking person. There's a bunch of those people in the world. Why I don't need to be like totally like enraptured. I can restrain my senses. It's a good skillful thing. Restraining the senses is a prerequisite for a calm, tranquil mind. Quite secluded from sense pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states. One abides in the first jhana. Right? To get into the jhanas, you need to practice sense restraint. So sense restraint is a good practice at whatever level we're at. We can practice some level of sense restraint. Some level of letting go. Saying no. As opposed to just being allowing ourselves to be completely unrestrained and our actions to be uncritically allowed to happen without any kind of investigation or question. So sense restraint is a good practice at a variety of different levels. Dallas has a question. Just seeing some of the comments on mana. The word manyati came to my mind because it's one of my favorite words. It's often used in relation to the mind in creation. Manyati and papancha. So we create. Imagine manyati can mean to imagine. We imagine this being, and then we propagate it. We imagine this desire, and then we propagate it. Manyati and papancha. You can observe that happening in your mind. Das has a question regarding greed, raga. Is it any thought impulse that compels you to go for anything for the sake of pleasure? If so, I should train myself not to go with such thoughts, impulses, not to cultivate it. Is it any thought impulse that compels you to go for anything for the sake of pleasure? Yes. I don't know about compel, though. Persuade, maybe. Compel is like force. Almost to the point of like you don't have any choice or say in the matter. I could say it's quite persuasive. Because if you observe how these things go, you're not really forced. You're convinced. Justifications and things arise in the mind, and you say, oh, yeah, I should go with this. Practice letting them go. Yeah. Investigate them too. Use them as an object of investigation. Don't try to force them away. You can letting them go is different than forcing them away. Letting them go is giving them no energy, just completely detaching from them, literally letting them go. They go as they came. Julie has a question. Would the Buddha have passed away after becoming enlightened if he did not teach? Like arahants supposedly pass if they become enlightened in lay life and they don't ordain. Can you talk about this? Okay, so the lay arahants, like passing on after 7 days if they don't ordain, that's not something that's in the suttas. That's a kind of like later thing that doesn't really fit. The few lay people who become arahants in the suttas and the monastic vinaya do pretty much become monastics right away, but it's because there's nothing left for them. There's no point, there's no purpose for them at all to be in the lay life. It's more comfortable for them to be in the monastic life, so they become monastics. Now, as per the, would the Buddha have passed away after becoming enlightened if he did not teach? No. I mean, he could have lived. He could have lived till he was 80 and not taught. It depends. He also could have renounced the life faculty early if he wanted to. Right? If you see in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, where the Buddha kind of hints at Ananda, it's like, I could stay around a little bit longer. Wink, wink, wink. And it just goes right over Ananda's head. And then Buddha renounces the life faculty. So I don't necessarily think that if they don't teach, they just pass on real quick. I think if they wanted to, they could probably choose to abandon the life faculty. Or they could hang around just until the body naturally decays and dies. Who's Karen B? Did I not see a Karen say hello? Jay Collins says, what is your daily schedule at Empty Cloud like, Bhante? Can you talk about your current personal meditation preference? Empty Cloud schedule is fairly common. Most Theravada forest monasteries or monasteries I've been to all have generally the same schedule. The only one that really does kind of drastically differ is Temple Forest. Just checking Facebook. Yeah, Temple Forest is really the only one that drastically differs. Otherwise, it's like a wake up at 5, meditation and puja before lunch, before breakfast, then breakfast, and then like a work meeting, work period in the morning, then lunch, then free period for the afternoon, unless you live there and you have extra duties, which often happens. If you're visiting, you won't have a lot of extra duties. And then evening allowables, tea time, and community gathering, asking monastics question. That's at 5. Then puja at 6:30, and then that's it. Meditation for a little bit after that till 7 something. Sometimes there's live streams, then we stay up later. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and sometimes Mondays are off days. So you can sleep in and rest, which is good. But that's about, and that's fairly common. Most, at least monasteries in the West, have the person has an off day. Either individuals have an off day and it's staggered through the week, or just the whole community takes off a day or two during the week. Like when I was at Abhayagiri on the Apositas, if you want to, you can stay up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, like meditating and doing the thing for the Aposita. And then the next day, people are basically off after that. Ah, there's Karen. All right. What island? Did I miss something? Bante, do you find it useful to carefully consider sometimes possible Mara tricks in addition to various human lack of wisdom? Well, Mara hits you at you where you lack wisdom. Like the justifications and the part of the mind that wants you to do unskillful thing is going to hit you where you're weakest and when you're weakest. That's what it does. That's what it's supposed to do. Right? It attacks you when and where you are weakest. So you have to be on guard for that. If you set the mindset that when you have a strong inclination that arises, a strong impulse, a strong desire, if you train and develop the mindset that you question those, you don't just accept it without question, but you question it. If you develop that, you train that, you set that mindset in that way, then you'll be a lot less likely to fall prey to it. Something will come up and you go, oh, no, wait, let me investigate this. You say, oh, I see you, Mara. It is because of our lack of wisdom that Mara can trick us. Robert has a question. Is greed in regard to the Dhamma something to worry about? I find myself collecting Dhamma books and listening to a bunch of Dhamma talks. Do you really need all those books? Have you read all those books? Or do you have a library where you've only read about a third of them? I was not a big avid Dhamma book collector or reader, and I still had a good 30, 40 books, a good chunk of which I had not read for years. But as I got to the point where I was close to ordaining, I started reading them all. So I was like, oh man, I never read these things. I should read them. But for the most part, there's this mind of collecting Dhamma books. And it's okay. I would say you just have to kind of allow yourself to set a limit and kind of trust in that you will, if you need some kind of a teaching, you'll eventually come across it. Because otherwise you're in that kind of hoard mode. I have to collect all of these things. I never know when I might need them. One of these days I will read all of these. Maybe, maybe not. Listening to Dhamma talks is I don't equate it because you can, there's only so many Dhamma talks available in audio visual form. And if you listen to just one a day in the morning or something like that, eventually you will run out of them until there's new ones that come out. So I view that a bit different. It's okay to, once a day or once every other day or whatever, you listen to a Dhamma talk. That's fine. That's what I used to do. Part of my morning routine was listening to a Dhamma talk, or part of one at least. For many years. But yes, greed to anything is not ideal, but it's better to be greedy towards the Dhamma than greedy towards many unskillful things. Oh, an island off of Washington State. Okay. Ah, too bad Christine isn't here tonight. We have a bunch of Washingtonians over here. Anthony talking about Mara and Mana. Yeah, I believe in that sutta, the word is manyati. In conceiving, one is bound by Mara. This is not myself says Dhamma books is a good way to read indirect debates between monastics. You mean how 5 very well respected big time Mahateras can all write a book about jhana, and all of them have very different takes and perspectives and views of what it means to be in jhana? Yeah, pretty much. All right. So it looks like we've come to the end of the chat. Why don't we read a sutta? One of my favorite suttas. Ah, Abby, Visakha's daughter. Otherwise known as Visakadita. Like you hear you see people's names like what's the name? You'll hear a name and it'll end with Putta. That means son. So instead of Abby, like calling Abby by her name, we would say Visakadita. Visakha's daughter. Good to see you, Abby. All right. So let's read. Let's share. Thanissaro Bhikku's criticism of Ajahn Brahm by writing Unfortunate Wobble. Yeah. Ajahn Brahm, how shall I say this? I don't consider him to be among the top tier of sutta scholars. He has a lot of strengths in other ways, but he's not somebody I would go to be like, oh, what does Ajahn Brahm say about sutta such and such and such? I would much sooner go to two of his disciples, Bhante Sujato or Ajahn Brahmali for that. So yeah, Ajahn Brahm has various perspectives that, for instance, are quite opposite from Bhante Ji, my preceptor, right? So who's right? My perspective of, well, who's right is, well, I put it into practice and I see who's right. Das has a question. One more about greed. Can I ask for any subtle examples of greed? How to know if it's eliminated or not? If you have to, as Bhante Ji would say, anytime somebody would ask if they're a Sotipana, he would say, if you have to ask, you're not. If you have to ask if greed is eliminated, it's not. You'll know. You'll very much know. So let's break down this word greed. If we're connecting it directly to, this is why I always like to go to the Pali word, because it acts as an anchor. Because otherwise, people are throwing around English words like nothing, like mindfulness, awareness, da 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 da, and like you're like, well, what exactly do you mean? Can you show me a Pali word? If you can show me a Pali word, then we have an anchor. We have some kind of firm ground to stand on. If you can't, we're just all over the place. So greed here, lobha, as one of the three unskillful roots, lobha dosa moha. Lobha means greedy, covetousness, or attachment, grasping. So anytime that you have an experience and you feel a pull to it, a pleasant experience that you feel a pull towards, then there's a good chance that greed is there. Likewise, the opposite, if you feel a push, there's a good chance that aversion is there, dosa. So that's how I kind of feel it. Douse says he's feeling a pull towards the Coca-Cola in the fridge. Yeah. It could just be even in thought. You don't have to see it. Yeah. But that's how I understand. Like, if I'm giving you like the raw experience of greed, it's like a pull. I'm being pulled towards it. And aversion is like a push. Being pulled towards the Coca-Cola in the fridge. See, Coca-Cola, I don't feel a pull. If it was root beer, I might feel a pull. Or chocolate milk or something like that. Then yeah, I might feel a pull. But Coca-Cola, I don't feel a pull or a push to Coca-Cola. See, that's how it goes. All right, so Jay Kala points out that I actually indeed miss a question about my current meditation preferences. I don't have like current meditation preferences. I practice Anapanasati and I practice Satipatthana. That's what I practice. That's what I practiced years ago. That's what I practice now. Now, in my earlier years, I did a wider variety of practices. But these days, Anapanasati and Satipatthana, those are the big ones. Those are what I practice. If I'm practicing, that's what I'm practicing. Now, of course, well, no, I mean, mindfulness of death stuff falls under Satipatthana as well. Let's see what else. Metta. Metta. Metta can fall under either, but it's itself. It can also be its own practice. But my frameworks are Anapanasati and Satipatthana. And I don't see that changing. I mean, who knows what the future holds? I could end up leaving Buddhism and doing, what is that, transcendental meditation or something. Who knows? But that's what I practice. Dow's talking about the Coca-Cola. You see, Dow's perceptive. He sees these things. Yes, it keeps arising. And I'm like, nope, but here it arises tens, hundreds of times. And I think, well, remember, Dow's gratification, danger, escape. There's gratification in that Coca-Cola. It tastes good. There's danger in it. And that you build up the habit for more Coca-Cola. It's not very healthy for you. It can hurt your teeth. Right? And what's the escape? The only way you're going to escape from the mind going to the Coca-Cola hundreds of times is to be able to let go of the craving for it. That's the hard part. Look at this. And I think it keeps arising because I am aware that I might give into it, since that's already established and well cultivated bad habit. Yes, exactly. Very good. Especially if Mara, like that part of your mind is like, come on, why do you keep fighting? You know you're going to do it anyway. You know you're going to go and get that Coke. You really think you're going to not do it? You know you're going to do it. That's when you have to be like, you have to really kind of pull out the willpower. Maybe go to bed, or do something. Like sometimes at night when I'm really hungry, I just have to okay, I remind myself, if I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, I won't be hungry. That's something I've observed. So I can just say, all right, so I'm hungry. It's okay. I go to bed and I won't be anymore. All right. Julie has a question. Can you describe your Satipatthana practice? That's an interesting. You combine Sotipana and Satipatthana into one word. I've never seen that before. That's quite interesting. So my Satipatthana practice is that I have trained myself and developed myself that no matter what experience I have, I can investigate it. I can observe what's going on in my mind and my body. Right? I can reflect on what is the state of my mind right now? What sensations are arising? What am I experiencing through my senses? Are there any hindrances in my mind? Right? Because I have practiced it for a long time, then the whole toolbox of Satipatthana is available to me and easy to access. In the beginning, it seems like a lot. Seems like there's a lot of practices, a lot of tools in the toolbox, and it can be confusing. But over time, it becomes second nature. And so it's not that I have to do any kind of special practice or that I have to set aside any time for Satipatthana. It's literally anytime I'm awake, whenever I'm being mindful, I'm practicing Satipatthana. And also, actually, technically, when I sit down and follow my breath and I'm practicing Anapanasati, I'm also practicing Satipatthana because they're connected. It's really one practice in a couple different modes, if you want to put it that way. I like to say tools in the toolbox. People talking about Ajahn Jeff or Thanissaro Bhikkhu. Yeah, Thanissaro was important for me in the early days as well. Not so much these days, here and there. But yeah, he's he's quite beneficial to a lot of different people. Hello, Visaka, welcome. Douse wants the instant gratification of being able to let go of craving. Why can't I let go of craving now, dang it? You just answered your question. You have a craving to let go of craving. The craving continues. All right. Okay. So let's read, huh? The simile of the saw. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Now at that time, Venerable Paguna of the top knot, Malaya Paguna, that's the full Pali name, Malaya Paguna, was mixing too closely together with nuns. So much that if a mendicant criticized those nuns in his presence, Malaya Paguna got angry and upset and even instigated disciplinary proceedings. I guess this is technically correct, but I love Bhante Bodhi's, Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. He goes, and they made a case of it. Because that's like, that fits perfectly well in like modern English vernacular idiom. Oh, you're always making a case of this. You're always making a case of everything. So, and if any mendicant criticized Paguna in their presence, those nuns got angry and upset and even instigated disciplinary proceedings. That's how much Malaya Paguna of the top knot was mixing too closely together with nuns, bhikkhunis. Then a mendicant went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, told him what was going on. So the Buddha addressed the mendicant, a certain monk. Please, monk, in my name, tell the mendicant Malaya Paguna that the teacher summons him. Yes, sir, that monk replied. He went to Malaya Paguna and said to him, Reverend Paguna, the teacher summons you. Yes, Reverend Paguna replied. He went to the Buddha, bowed, and sat down to one side. The Buddha said to him, Is it really true, Paguna, that you've been mixing overly closely together with bhikkhunis? So much so that if a mendicant criticizes those bhikkhunis in your presence, you get angry and upset and even instigate disciplinary proceedings. And if any mendicant criticizes you in those bhikkhunis' presence, they get angry and upset and even instigate disciplinary proceedings. Is that how much you're mixing overly closely together with bhikkhunis? Yes, sir. Paguna, Are you not a gentleman who has gone forth from the lay life into homelessness? Yes, sir. As such, it is not appropriate for you to mix so closely with bhikkhunis. So if anyone criticizes those nuns in your presence, you should give up any desires and thoughts of the lay life. See, that's quite interesting, isn't it? The Buddha is equating being too attached to the lay life. Monastics should not be, especially monastics, of the opposite sex. You shouldn't be overly attached to them. Shouldn't really be overly attached to any monastic per se, or anybody, but it's appropriate to not be too overly attached. And so this is what the Buddha is saying here. Same thing, the Buddha tells us not to be overly attached to families, to the supporters, people who support you, give you food and shelter and medicine and clothes, etc. Not to be overly attached to them either. And so this is wonderful. This you should take with you, and from here on for the rest of your life, you should train this way. The Buddha is telling you this is how you should train. If that happens, you should train like this. My mind will remain unaffected. I will blurt out no bad words. I will remain full of compassion, with a heart of love, metta, and no secret hate. That's how you should train. So even if somebody strikes those nuns with fists, stones, rods, and swords in your presence, you should give up any desires or thoughts of the lay life. If that happens, you should train like this. My mind will remain unaffected. I will blurt out no bad words. I will remain full of compassion, with a heart of love and no secret hate. That's how you should train. So if anyone criticizes you in your presence, you should give up any thoughts, any desires or thoughts of the lay life. If that happens, you should train like this. My mind will remain unaffected. I shall utter no evil words. I will remain compassionate for their welfare, with metta and a mind of harmlessness, no secret hate. That is how you should train. Pretty hard already, isn't it? It's pretty hard. We already know this. If there's people we like and we see them being mistreated, we want to get angry and strike out in furious, justified anger and vengeance. What's that from that movie? Pulp Fiction, the Bible quote. I will strike down upon you with great anger and furious vengeance. This is how we want to be. But the Buddha says, no, not so. This is not how you should train. You should train otherwise. Sopaguna, even if someone strikes you with fists, stones, rods, and swords, you should give up any desires or thoughts of the lay life. If that happens, you should train like this. My mind will remain unaffected. I will blurt out no bad words. I will remain full of compassion, with a heart of love and no secret hate. That's how you should train. Then the Buddha said to the mendicants, mendicants, I used to be satisfied with these mendicants. I used to be satisfied with them. Once I address them, I eat my food in one sitting per day, so I eat once a day. Doing so, I find that I'm healthy and well, nimble, strong, and living comfortably. You too should eat your food in one sitting per day. Doing so, you'll find that you're healthy and well, nimble, strong, and living comfortably. I didn't have to keep on instructing these mendicants. I just had to prompt their mindfulness. Suppose a chariot stood harnessed to thoroughbreds at a level crossroads, with the goad ready. Then a deft horse trainer, a master charioteer, might mount that chariot, taking the reins in his right hand and goad in the left. He'd drive out and back wherever he wishes, whenever he wishes. In the same way, I didn't have to keep on instructing those mendicants. I just had to prompt them with their mindfulness. So mendicants, you too should give up what is unskillful and devote yourself to skillful qualities. And that way you'll achieve growth, improvement, and maturity in this teaching and training. So the Buddha is like, the monks, they were pretty easy to train back then. Now, Malia Paguna, here you come in, making all kinds of cases. All right. So mendicants, you too should give up what's unskillful and devote yourself to skillful qualities. In this way, you'll achieve growth, improvement, and maturity in this teaching and training. Suppose that not far from a town or a village, there was a large grove of sal trees that was choked with castor oil weeds. Then along comes a person who wants to help protect and nurture that grove. They'd cut down the crooked sal saplings that were robbing up the sap and throw them out. They'd clean up the interior of the grove and properly care for the straight, well-formed sal saplings. In this way, in due course, that sal grove would grow, increase, and mature. In the same way, mendicants, you too should give up what's unskillful and devote yourself to skillful qualities. In this way, you'll achieve growth, improvement, and maturity in this teaching and training. Once upon a time, mendicants, now we come to one of the most favorite and funny similes in all of the suttas, at least for me. Visakha has a comment. This is hard to take and difficult to understand. Maybe Paguna was just being kind to the nuns, and that is what Buddhists do. Be kind. No. He's being overly attached to them. Big difference. Big difference. And the Buddha is giving us an ideal. This is not something that the average person can emulate, can live up to. We can only strive to move to that point. Keep in mind here that the Buddha is not talking about action, physical action. He mentioned the mind and he mentioned words. There are situations, like for instance, in the Vinaya, the nuns and monks were not allowed to travel together. And then nuns were traveling alone and they got raped and all kinds of stuff happened to them. And then the Buddha allowed for nuns and monks to travel together if it's a very dangerous place for protection. You can act in ways to help yourself and others be out of harm's way and also have a mind of metta and not act unskillfully. So that's important to understand. This is really important about the mind. And as we'll see at the end of the sutta. All right. Now, once upon a time, mendicants, right here at Savatthi, there was a housewife named Vedehika. She had a good reputation. This housewife, Vedehika, is sweet, even tempered and calm. Now Vedehika has a bonded maid. This is slave. Bhante Sujato doesn't use the word slave, but bonded maid, slave, whatever you want to say, named Kali, who was skilled, tireless, and well organized in her work. Then Kali thought, my mistress has a good reputation as being sweet, even tempered, and calm. But does she actually have anger in her and just not show it? Or does she have no anger? Or is it just because my work is well organized that she doesn't show anger, even though she still has it inside? Why don't I test my mistress? So we have Kali the troll here saying, oh, let's see. Let's put this to the test. Let's see what happens. So Kali got up during the day. So this is the word here, diva. This is not like she got up in the morning. This means she got up late in the day. Like later than she normally would, because she probably gets up to do all kinds of chores for the mistress and things like that. So she decided to get up later. She's decided to sleep in. And so Kali got up during the day. Vedehika said to her, what the hell, Kali? What is it, madam? You're getting up late in the day? What's with you, girl? Nothing, madam. Nothing's up, you bad girl. But yet you get up later in the day. Angry and upset, she scowled. Then Kali thought, my mistress actually has anger in her and just doesn't show it. It's not that she has no anger. It's just because my work is well organized that she doesn't show anger, even though she still has it inside. Why don't I test my mistress further? So Kali got up even later in the day. Vedehika said to her, what the hell, Kali? What is it, madam? You're getting up even later in the day. What's up with you, girl? Nothing, madam. Nothing's up, you bad girl. But you get up later in the day. Angry and upset, she blurted out angry words. So, she was angry inside the first day, and it barely kind of became visible to Kali just by a little scowl. Now today, it's come out in words. It's progressing. Then Kali thought, my mistress actually has anger in her and just doesn't show it. It's not that she has no anger. It's just because my work is well organized that she doesn't show anger, even though she still has it inside. Why don't I test my mistress further? So Kali got up even later in the day. Vedehika said to her, what the hell, Kali? What is it, madam? You're getting up even later in the day. What's up with you, girl? Nothing, madam. Nothing's up, you bad girl. But you get up even later in the day? Angry and upset, she grabbed a rolling pin and hit Kali on the head, cracking it open. So we went from anger in the mind to anger in speech to anger in physical action. Then Kali, with blood pouring from her cracked skull, denounced her mistress to the neighbors. See, ladies, what the sweet one did? See what the even-tempered one did? See what the calm one did? How on earth can she grab a rolling pin and hit her only maid on the head, cracking it open just for getting up late? Then after some time, housewife Vedehika got this bad reputation. The housewife Vedehika is fierce, ill-tempered, and not calm at all. In the same way, a mendicant may be the sweetest of the sweet, the most even-tempered of the even-tempered, the calmest of the calm, so long as they don't encounter any disagreeable criticism. See how important that's a very, very wise call out. As long as everything's going fine, they're so sweet, they're so nice. I've experienced that with a couple different monastics. When they're around lay people, when they're in public, they're so sweet, they're so nice. And then something happens behind the scenes, and then Mistress Vedehika comes out. Right? This is an important thing to understand. Robert says that Thanissaro has the advantage that everything is free of charge, as it should be. I am a free of charge fundamentalist, just like Thanissaro. I want everything that Maguseka will ever make to be free for everybody. Now, of course, if you want a printed version, we'll try. Hopefully, people can donate and we can make printed copies. But free is the way to go. Thanissaro is 100% correct in that regard, I believe. Although, if you have your books published by a publisher, it gets a wider reach. It's an interesting thing. All right. Elaine has a question. How do you distinguish an act of kindness from an act of attachment? Kindness can be attached. It can also be unattached. It's still kindness. An act of kindness or generosity or something that's unattached is an act that with no expectation of anything in return for it. Or you're doing it not because they're your family member or you're a loved one, a friend. Right? That is an act of kindness, you could say, that has at least a lot less attachment than the norm. Anthony says anger, hatred is always a tumor. That actually brings up an interesting thing in my mind as well. As I always say, Elaine, this is for Visakha. If you need to act skillfully in a situation, then getting angry and agitated actually harms your ability to do something skillful in that situation. Like when I was working Child Protective Services, if I was in an emergency situation, if my mind was all wrapped up in anger or wrapped up in sadness, wrapped up in all these strong emotions because of what was happening, I would not be as helpful. I would not be as useful. I would not be able to be as beneficial as I could be. So if your mind is wrapped up in anger, you can't see what's good for yourself. You can't see what's good for others. Or both. So it's always better, no matter what the situation, that your mind is, as the Buddha says in the sutta, this is how you should train. All right. Cracking it open. If she's hit that hard, I'm surprised she's conscious, let alone walking. Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends. Like, people can have cracks in the skull. Like, I don't know. It's hard to know. Um, but it could be just like it cracked, like an egg cracks, and it's just like not like it's not like a big glaring hole. Um, Nor would necessarily it make a cut. It could be just like a strong contusion that ripped open capillaries and is bleeding from it. Who knows? Uh, all right. So Vizaka says we don't get credit for being angry and not acting on it. Yes, the Buddha says that this is a battle that is hard to win. There's your credit. The Buddha says that you won and it was really hard. So congratulations. Yeah, Douse, if you know the meme, just put it in the Discord. It's one thing that drives me nuts about popular teachers. I'm totally willing to give Dana, but the Dhamma shouldn't be behind a paywall if possible. Agreed. Um, to really trust in Kama to provide is an act of faith. And I mean faith in like it's not like, oh, well, we mean confidence because we're Westerners and we don't like the concept of faith. No, it's an act of faith. It's an act of faith in the fact that if you are doing the right thing, people will come. If you build it, they will come. If you're totally free, if you're Dana, if you're not imposing anything on somebody, they will come. And well, maybe they won't. But you have to take the leap of faith. Otherwise, you're behind a paywall. It's the way it is. Hello, Upasaka Metika. Welcome. Aren't Bante G's books mostly through publishers? Yes. Yes. They've had a greater reach in the world than they would if they weren't through publishers. And also, the royalties from those books has kept Bhavana alive for many, many years. Bhavana is not rich. Bhavana, most of its life has been close to being in the red, right? Because it's been supported by people who come and do retreats there, right? It's not a big, rich place. And so the royalties from those books have helped Bhavana stay alive and helped thousands of people to go and learn. So, I mean, can I say anything bad about it? No. Is it the most ideal? No, I don't think so. And I mean, to be honest with you, I already have had contact with Wisdom Publications here and there while I was at Bhavana. Will they one day come to me and say, "Hey, you're a disciple of Bante G. Do you want this book to be under Wisdom Publications?" I'd probably have to say no, but it's not like it's evil. It has its ups and downs. It has its ups and downs. You can get a version of the Bhavana Vandana for free. You can also get an old version of Mindfulness in Plain English for free on PDF. Those are available. Robert says, oh no, wait, that's not what I wanted to. Hello, Cindy. Welcome. Oh, wait. I recognize you from the picture as Sin. You added the D on there. All right. So where it is, this is the one I wanted to show. Now I'm beginning to worry I'm sounding like a cheapskate. No, like you know, when you're around like very, very progressive people, they complain about how Western Buddhism is not inclusive to people of color and people of lower economic strata, yada, 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 because it's all charging. And of course, what they're talking about is Zen. Like that, they don't really have a lot of experience with like traditional Theravada monastic stuff, but they're talking about Zen, right? You know, because everything is charging and this and that. And, you know, they have a point. That Bhavana is always free. Anybody can come and everybody can. Bhavana, I saw everybody under the sun at Bhavana. Black, white, Latino, South American, Asian, Middle Eastern, you know, whatever, poor, rich. I saw everybody at Bhavana, and that's how it should be. That's how I want anything I do to be. You know, available for everybody to be together. That's how it should be. So don't feel like you're a cheapskate. That is the proper way it should be, I think. That's one of the reasons I did like Bhavana, because of that. All right. And that's a very rare thing. That actually is very, in America at least, that's a very, very rare thing. There's probably less than half a handful of places where you'll experience that in America. Oh, hello, Cleo. It's been a while. Good to see you, Cleo. Welcome. Robert says, any plans to come to the Northwest Washington State, Bante? If somebody flies me out there, I'll come. Monks have to be invited. You know, I am well versed. I am connected with Tan Nisabo, and he has, you know, when Clear Mountain is a bit more situated, he does want me to come and visit. I'm also invited by Tubten Chodron to come visit her place in Eastern Washington. So, and also I've been suggested to visit the Hermitage, the Ajahn Chah Hermitage there. So there's like three things. There's at least three, and at least two or three people in Washington State that I know of. So one of these days I'll get to Washington State. Yeah. But, you know, when it comes to monks, you know, I'm not a lay teacher who charges things. So I can't just like say, all right, I'll get on the plane. No, somebody has to do that for me, you know? I don't go somewhere if people don't invite me. All right. Speaking of which, I am available to do that. Right? I'm in plans to go to like Austin, Texas, maybe Arkansas. Like there's a few people in different places who have are talking to me about, you know, flying me out. It's what I used to do before COVID, and I enjoy doing that. So, you know, if you want me to come and you have a local sangha, a local community that you know, puts the funds together and gets me out there, then I'll come. No problem. I'm a nomad monk, so I have a lot more freedom than I do, than I will in years to come when I'm building up my monastery and stuff like that. So, all right. 600 for a 7-day retreat at my local Zen monastery. That's pretty cheap. 600 for a 7-day retreat? That's on the lower side that I've seen. I've seen 1500, I've seen 2000, that kind of stuff. Of course, you know what happens. Hello, Gretchen. Gretchen from the retreat this weekend. Welcome, Gretchen. Oh, look at this. Robert called it too. Look, man, that's cheap. I've seen 1500. Oh no, the place I live in is 1500 a month. Yeah. Robert, so this is a good lesson. I'd pay your airfare if I could afford it. So very few people can afford to jet set a monk around. It's organizations, it's groups of people that do it. Now, of course, yes, there are rich people that do offer that to monastics. And I actually do have somebody who has offered to cover my flights, but I don't want to abuse that, so I'm not going to just be like every 2 seconds, oh, they want me to go here. Can you cover my flight? No. So like if people want me to come, then they can cover the flight, the group, the organization. And if I need to, go, like for instance, I've made the determination now that I'm going to be going to California next year and the year after, because I want to spend a Vasa at Abhayagiri, and they want me to visit a couple more times before they would think about that. So I'm going to be going to Abhayagiri, hopefully, once a year for the next 2 years. And of course, Colorado, once or twice a year, I'm going to Colorado. And so those are more like personal things. And the person who's offered to cover my airfare, I'll use them for that. But to jet set around, no, I don't want to abuse anyone's generosity. So. Okay. This is quite, you know what? I think we will take out, since we are coming close to the last half hour, this Dhammapalooza has gone quick. There's been a lot of old friends coming on, lots of good conversation. So I think we're going to just cancel the sutta for now. Maybe we'll finish it another Dhammapalooza. But we have some good. I am familiar with Mahamave Noah. As a matter of fact, one of the Christine is on Facebook. Christine, who's from hey, Christine, we have multiple people from Washington State here. We have a Washington State little reunion. But anyway, so one of my brothers in the monastic life, and like quite literally like one of the few people who Bhante Ji ordained that is still a monk, which most of them are not, but one of the few ones that is, and is a senior monastic, he joined, and he's a Westerner, and he joined Mahamave Noah. And so, and I've met Mahamave Noah monks, and I've been to Mahamave Noah places. They're top notch. Among, like, I would equate Mahamave Noah monks to the Thai forest monks of the Thai tradition. Like, they're top notch Sri Lankan monks. They're strong Vinaya monks. They're strong Dhamma and practice monks. And they also train their monks to teach Dhamma, which is good, right? I like those monks. They're good monks. I actually almost joined that organization. The only thing because what they do is, it's like joining the army. When you become a Mahamave Noah monk, they will tell you, okay, you're going to that country, and you go and you stay at a monastery in that country. And then maybe a year later, they're like, okay, now you're going to that country. and you go and you stay a year at that country. Like it's like it's like you're on deployment. They send you to different places, right? Not for everybody, but it's an interesting life. And I thought like that would be a cool thing to do. The only problem is Sri Lankan food destroys me. There's something in Sri Lankan and Southern Indian food that I'm allergic to, and it's just not good. There's no way I would like survive. I would quite literally die if all I had for weeks and months was Sri Lankan food. So yeah, so Mahamevnoa or living in Sri Lanka would not be good for me. Visiting, yes. Living, no. But Mahamevnoa, top notch. I highly suggest them. How do we support your project for your future monastery? um, right now, I mean, honestly, in all honesty, like an actual monastery is probably at least 10 years away. Right? There's no plans like, all right, we have the place we're going to start building. No, no, no. Actual monastery is 10 years away at least. A little vihara, a little dwelling place for myself and a couple monks. I'm hoping that's 4 to 5 years away. We'll see. But the best way to support is to support Magaseka, to support the the ongoing the community, the streams, the all the events we do, to share it around, to spread the word. That's the best way to do it, right? To help us grow. Monetarily, yeah, sure, that's fine, but also to help us grow in the Buddhist world, like in the Americas, to help us grow, to raise Magaseka's. And I mean, honestly, Magaseka is just me right now, right? I can't ordain anybody for another 4 years. So there's no in terms of monastic community, it's just me. But hopefully, and when I'm a Tara, when I can ordain people, then I'll start building the community, and we'll build up from there. And the plan is, the vision for Magaseka is to have a monastery and a retreat center, similar to Bhavana, but in very different ways. And also to ordain bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, and also to do like Thanissaro does, but to probably a much less degree in terms of having things printed and available for people. Thanissaro is the treasurer for the Dhamma Youth in America. So like he has strong Thai money backing him to be able to do what he does. That's why most people don't do what he does, because they don't have the support and the money to do it. Because he has strong Thai support in that way, he can do it. Right? So the more Magaseka is supported, the more we can do it. But these are things that are for the years to come. Right now, we have to build up. Build up the community, build up the support. And right now, I need to build up my base in Colorado. Right? Building up that local base. That's very important. And so right now, we're in baby steps. Magaseka right now is me and the community on the Discord and live streams, Zooms, YouTubes. That's essential, and teachings. That's essentially what Magaseka is right now. And hopefully in the not too distant future, next 4 or 5 years, we can have a brick and mortar place in Colorado, or if Colorado doesn't work out, somewhere else, and we can move from there. Hello, Renuka. Good to see you, Renuka. Renuka is an old friend from early Bhavana days. So Robert has a question. How do lay residencies at monasteries generally work? Do you pay rent or is it a work exchange thing? Usually you don't pay anything. You have to, whatever lay life bills you have to pay, right? The monastery is not paying your cell phone bill and stuff like that. So you have to, you have to be able to pay to cover your insurances and all that kind of stuff, car payments, you know. Um, but almost always, I have heard of this, but it's extremely rare. And I've only heard of this in places that are not heavily supported by cultural Buddhists. So if you go to a Thai monastery that allows residencies, most likely you're never going to have to pay. But no, your payment is that you live with the community, you take care of the monks, you do work around the community, you work with them, with the monks or with the other lay people, and that's your payment. Right? You get room and board, and you work and you support the community. That's what the normal thing is when you become a resident at a monastery. How long does someone need to be a monk to become a Tara? 10. 10 Vasa. This Vasa that I'm about to start is my 6th. So after this Vasa, after 4 more Vasas, then I can ordain. Bhante Sudaso I think this is going to be his 12th because I think we're 6 Vasa different. So Bhante Sudaso became able to ordain 2 years ago. I can't right now. I could have an anagarika with me. Right now, I could actually ordain somebody as a samanera. I could do that. But I couldn't ordain somebody as a full bhikkhu or bhikkhuni. I could make somebody a samanera right now if I wanted to. I don't want to. And I think you really probably should wait until at least 10 years to do that. But you could if you felt the need. Writing on Jay Kala's question, how rare is ordaining 40 plus years old? In Western culture, outside of Asia, fairly rare. It's doable, but your options are limited. Inside Asia, no problem. I mean, worst comes to worst, literally. Like when I was thinking about this, because I was in my mid 30s, toward itching on late 30s when I ordained, and I was very close. Actually, I was past the Bhavana's ordination limit is 36. I got ordained at 37. So most places, if you're sincere, dedicated, and not too old, and don't have too many medical health issues that are going to cost the monastery a lot of money, most places might make exceptions. But worst comes to worst, if you're older and you can't find a place to ordain, go to Thailand, get off the plane, become a bhikkhu, and then just go back. Right? Of course, you would still probably have a hard time. You still have to find a place to live. Most of the places that don't want to ordain you if you're older, it's because they don't want you to live there if you're older, because you cost more money. Have you ever heard of short-term ordination in the US, or is that not a thing yet? Actually, like at Bhavana used to do that years ago, but they stopped. If you go to a traditional Thai place, they might do it for you. Outside of that, I think it's probably not very common. Robert says, I don't see you wearing red robes anymore, Bante. I thought robes were one of the few personal possessions monks were allowed. Are robes communal in U.S. monasteries? What do you mean by the fact that I have a different color in terms of possession? Like, can you clarify that? I suspect you have a specific meaning, and I want to answer to that specific meaning. And also, Robert, sure, you have a bunch of things, but how much does it cost? If it's not a ton of money, so what? You have a couple things. Shouldn't be too big of an issue. I know at least one bhikkhu who's bipolar, and he's a senior monastic, and he's doing okay. I mean, ask senior monastics about it. Talk to them about ordaining and see what they say. So Robert has not responded for clarification. Oh wait. Yeah. Okay, so why I'm wearing new robes is because my old robes were falling apart. And by falling apart, I quite literally mean falling apart. Robes get to the point where they become so threadbare that, like, you would spend days patching, and then there would be another, like, it's not even ripping. It's literally like it's falling apart. And so my robes were falling apart, and I was at Empty Cloud, and Bhante Siddhazo said, go into the robe stores and get another robe. And I said, okay. And so here I am. First time wearing like yellow gold robes. I've had a variety of different robe colors in my 6 years as a monastic so far. In theory, robe color shouldn't really mean anything. But in practice, it's kind of like team colors. People will say, "Oh, he's a Thai monk." Right? Or people will say, well, Bhante, weren't you ordained under a Sri Lankan monk? Didn't you used to wear like maroon robes or darker robes? But really, and honestly, like, it really doesn't mean anything. Other than the fact that countries have kind of developed their own traditional robe colors that they use, doesn't mean anything. What movie? Oh, Douse is doing a Crocodile Dundee thing, huh? Okay. Anyway. What's the difference between a temple and a monastery in the US? So a temple is usually considered to be like, or a vihara is usually considered to be in an urban or village kind of setting. A monastery often called the forest monastery, is considered to be more of like in a rural setting, in the mountains kind of a thing. I'm not sure that that's like a real distinction in traditional places like Sri Lanka or Thailand, because I think a wat in the forest is a wat, is a wat, and a wat in Bangkok is a wat. So, all right, why don't we do? It'll have to be a short meditation, but why don't we just meditate for about 10 minutes? Because we have only 20 minutes left. Actually, 19, 18. So let's meditate for about 10 minutes, and then we'll end it out. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. And then put your focus on the breath. Watch as the body breathes in and the body breathes out. Slowly open your eyes and come out of the meditation. I believe we did the Fool last week. So now we're on the Wise of the Dhammapada. Robert, that's a clever, whoever wrote that title is a clever title. What's what in a what? I like that. All right. The Wise. Should one find a man who points out faults, who reproves, let him follow such a wise and sagacious person as one would a guide to hidden treasure. It's always better and never worse to cultivate such an association. Let him admonish, instruct, and shield one from wrong. He indeed is dear to the good and detestable to the evil. Do not associate with evil companions. Do not seek the fellowship of the vile. Associate with the good friends. Seek the fellowship of noble men. He who drinks the Dhamma lives happily with a tranquil mind. The wise man ever delights in the Dhamma made known by the noble one. Irrigators regulate the rivers. Fletchers straighten the arrow shaft. Carpenters shape the wood. The wise control themselves. Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not affected by praise or blame. On hearing the teachings, the wise become perfectly purified, like a lake deep, clear, and still. The good renounce attachment for everything. The virtuous do not prattle with a yearning for pleasures. The wise show no elation or depression when touched by happiness or sorrow. He is indeed virtuous, wise, and righteous, who neither for his own sake, nor for the sake of another does any wrong. Don't do wrong even if it's for somebody else's sake. Very important. Who does not crave for sons, wealth, or kingdom, and does not desire success by unjust means. Few among men are those who cross to the farther shore. The rest, the bulk of men, only run up and down the hither bank. But those who act accordingly to the perfectly taught Dhamma will cross the realm of death so difficult to cross. Abandoning the dark way, let the wise man cultivate the bright path. Having gone from home to homelessness, let him yearn for that delight in detachment, so difficult to enjoy, giving up sensual pleasures with no attachment. Let the wise man cleanse himself of defilements of the mind. Those whose minds have reached full excellence in the factors of enlightenment, who have renounced acquisitiveness, rejoice not in clinging to things, rid of cankers, glowing with wisdom, they have attained nibbana in this very life. All right. Such powerful, beautiful wisdom. Yes, Dallas, it is a challenge. It is indeed a challenge. That is correct. And Sean, no problem, my friend. Always good for you to be with us. Found a quiet moment at work. This book, wow. You mean the Dhammapada? Yeah. All right, friends. So let's do our closing out. Hello, Nanjaf. Welcome. So let's get the banners rolling here. Okay, friends. So we come to the end here. So a few announcements, some business. Check out muggaseka.org. That's the website. If you like, you can put your email in the top right and you'll get a notification anytime I post anything. Anytime I post a new video, do a live stream, do a retreat, anything like that, I post there. So if you want to know anything, keep up to date with whatever I'm doing, that's the best place to go, muggaseka.org. I also help to run an online community that is based in the early text, the suttas, both in study and in practice. We have myself and multiple monastics in this community, as well as many lay people. We do things like weekly sutta readings, meditate together, discuss Dhamma together, things like that. So if you are interested in that, you can send a invite to muggaseka@gmail.com to join that. Okay, friend. So Dhammapalooza is every Monday, 8 p.m. Unless otherwise, I'm not able to do it. Next Monday, I might not be able to do it. We'll see. It's still up in the air. If I end up going to the monastery up north, I won't have internet, so I won't be able to do it. If I don't end up going, then I'll be able to do it. So keep an eye out for the announcement for that. Wednesdays are Ask a Bhante, but if I'm getting low on questions, so if I pause that a bit, I think what I might start doing is actually going through Dhammapada verses, making small videos, going through verses bits at a time and giving commentary on them. I think that might be a pretty cool video series. But if you have any questions you'd like me to answer in a video for your benefit and for the benefit of many other people who will see the video in years to come, then send me a question. You can send it to the email on the screen. And I think that is about it. Let us do our sharing of merit and end out. Oh. Window, share merits. Dukkha patta chani dukkha, bhaya patta chani bhaya, soka patta chani soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata chame each sampatang punya sampatang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, akasatta chabumata deva naga mahidika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief. May all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth Devas, Nagas, and Yakas of mighty power, share in this dispensation, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sandu. I gotta fix that. Sandu. Typo. All right. Oh, welcome, Malika. Oh, Nandruf is real. Okay, welcome. Okay, friends. Well, we come to the end of another Dhammapalooza. Hopefully, I will see you again next week, same time, for another 2-hour festival of Dhamma. Until next time, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. Practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Good night.